The sound of shattered glass tore through the mansion. Victor Hale's voice followed, raw and unfiltered. "Where were you?" he yelled at the nurse. "She fell again. I told you not to leave her side." Lena sat slumped in her wheelchair, eyes blank. The glass of water had slipped from her fingers, rolling across the marble floor. Her father's rage filled the room like smoke. "I'm sorry, sir," Mara whispered. Victor's face hardened. "Sorry doesn't heal her legs." He turned, his breath unsteady. "Nothing does." He knelt before Lena, lowering his tone. "You scared me, sweetheart. You have to be more careful." Lena didn't blink, didn't speak, didn't even flinch. Her silence was a wall thicker than any fortress money could buy. He stayed there, hand trembling on her wheelchair handle. "I'd give it all away if I could bring you back," he murmured, voice breaking. "All of it. Hello, family. Welcome to Diary of a Storyteller. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful, emotional, and heartwarming stories. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into this story." Outside, the garden swayed gently under the breeze. It was beautiful, yet lifeless, much like the house itself. Later that afternoon, the quiet was interrupted by the crunch of small, barefoot steps on gravel. Tomi crept through the back fence, eyes darting, his stomach twisted with hunger. He'd heard rich people threw food away here. He'd risked it for crumbs. He moved like a shadow until he saw her. A girl sitting in a wheelchair by the glass doors, staring at the horizon. Pale, still, hauntingly quiet. He froze, then grinned. "Hey," he called softly through the glass. "You alive in there?" No response. He lifted his arms, made a goofy pose, then twirled on his heels, pretending to trip. Nothing. He exaggerated a fall, rolled on the grass, and jumped up with a bow. A faint sound came from inside, a breath. A hint of air that might have been, yes, laughter. He lit up. "Oh, you think that's funny? Watch this." He started dancing, wild, offbeat, carefree. His feet slapped against the grass. He spun, leapt, clapped, even threw in a backflip attempt that ended with him flat on his back. Lena's lips curved, trembling. A small sound escaped her. A laugh, weak but real. The door swung open. Mara stepped out, shocked. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Tomi jumped. "Sorry, I was just dancing. Didn't mean to scare her." Mara stared at Lena, whose eyes shimmered with life for the first time in months. "She laughed," Mara whispered. "Oh my God, she laughed." Behind her, Victor appeared, stern and towering. "What's going on?" Tomi swallowed hard. "Sir, I was just—" "Get out," Victor snapped. Lena's fingers twitched. A tear slipped from her eye. Mara whispered, "Wait, she's reacting." He made her laugh. Victor turned to his daughter, his expression, softening. But pride was quicker than hope. "This is not a circus," he said coldly. "Remove him." 2 guards escorted Tomi out through the garden gate. He didn't resist. "Sorry, sir," he said, glancing back at the window. "Didn't mean no harm." Inside, Lena stared after him until he vanished. That night, Victor couldn't sleep. He replayed it in his mind, his daughter's laugh, faint but real. It haunted him. He stood by her doorway, watching her sleep, tears burning behind his eyes. "Who was that boy?" he whispered. The next day, Lena refused breakfast. She just sat, silent again. By noon, Mara noticed movement by the fence. The boy was back. He held a small flower crown, made of dandelions and candy wrappers. "Can I give her this?" he asked softly. Mara hesitated. Then she looked at Lena, her eyes brighter already, and nodded. 5 minutes. Tomi stepped into the garden again. "Hey, princess," he grinned. "You missed my encore." Lena blinked, then a tiny smile. He danced again, goofy, dramatic, spinning until he nearly fell. She giggled, clapping weakly. Victor's voice thundered from inside. "What is this?" Tomi froze. Mara flinched. Victor stormed out, his anger shaking the air. "You again?" "Sir, please," Mara started. "Out, now!" Tomi bowed his head, ready to leave. But then Lena spoke, her first words in months, faint but clear. "Don't," she whispered. Victor froze. "Lena?" Her voice cracked. "He's funny." Silence. The world seemed to stop. Victor's chest heaved, eyes wide, disbelief mixing with hope. Tomi smiled, backing away. See? She agrees. Victor stared at the boy, torn between anger and awe. Go home, he said finally, and don't come back. Lena's small hand gripped her father's sleeve. Please. But he turned away. Enough. Tomi left through the gate, his smile fading. He walked down the dirt road, barefoot and quiet, the sound of her laughter echoing in his head. That night, Victor sat in his study, staring at his reflection in the glass. He saw a man surrounded by everything money could buy, and still completely powerless. He remembered her laughter, light and fragile. It was more valuable than all his fortune combined. Mara entered quietly. Sir, she said, maybe you should let him come again, just once. Victor didn't respond. She placed a photo on his desk, Lena before the accident, mid-laughter, spinning in a summer dress. That boy brought her back to this, she whispered. Victor closed his eyes. He didn't want to believe it, but deep down, he already did. Outside, a light drizzle fell over the empty garden. Somewhere in the distance, a barefoot boy danced under the rain. The next morning dawned gray. The mansion was quiet again. Too quiet. Lena's eyes were open, but they were distant, like she'd retreated somewhere deep inside herself. Victor stood by the window, coffee in hand, staring at the garden where the boy had danced. Mara entered softly. She hasn't spoken since yesterday, she said. Victor didn't look at her. She needs rest, not distractions. She needs life, Mara said. Something real. He turned sharply. I'm doing everything possible. I've hired doctors, therapists, specialists, and none of them made her laugh, Mara cut in. That boy did, with nothing but his bare feet and courage. Victor's jaw tightened. He's a trespasser. He's a miracle, she said quietly, and left the room before he could answer. Victor stared at the empty chair she'd left behind, anger fading into unease. He hated that she was right. By afternoon, he found himself pacing the window again, eyes drawn to the garden. It looked lifeless without the boy's movement. And then, he saw a flicker, a small shape beyond the fence. Tomi was there, crouched under the hedge, watching the mansion. Victor went out without thinking. You're back, he said, voice stern but softer than before. Tomi straightened up, eyes wide. I didn't steal nothing, sir. I just wanted to see if she's okay. Victor studied him, barefoot, clothes worn thin, a stubborn spark in his eyes. Why do you care? She laughed, Tomi said. People don't laugh like that if they're okay before. Something in the boy's honesty broke through Victor's armor. He sighed. You shouldn't be here. I know. Tomi hesitated. But maybe I could dance outside the fence. She could see me from the window. No one would even know. Victor's lips pressed together. You think a few twirls can fix paralysis? Tomi shrugged. Didn't say that. Just said it makes her smile. He turned to leave, shoulders hunched against the drizzle. Victor called out, Wait. Tomi stopped. Victor exhaled. 5 minutes. Stay in the garden. If you cross the steps, you're out. Understood? Tomi nodded, his grin lighting up his whole face. When Mara brought Lena to the window, her expression shifted instantly. There he was, dancing again, silly and proud, balancing a stick on his head, pretending it was a crown. Lena giggled, clapping her hands softly. The sound made Victor's chest ache. Tomi kept dancing until the rain grew heavier, then bowed dramatically toward the window. Your Highness, he said, even though she couldn't hear him. She mouthed the word he couldn't make out. Looked like thank you. For the first time in months, Victor found himself smiling too. The visits became a secret routine. Every afternoon, Tomi appeared at the garden edge. Every day, Lena waited. Mara pretended not to notice, bringing tea to the terrace just as the boy arrived. Their conversations through gestures grew deeper. Lena started writing small notes Mara placed on the window ledge. You dance like sunshine. Teach me to move again. Tomi would nod eagerly, spinning, kicking, then pausing with his hands over his heart to make her laugh. One day, Victor joined them silently. He watched from the steps, arms folded, as Tomi mimed climbing an invisible mountain and slipping every few steps. Lena laughed so hard she started coughing. Victor moved toward her. Are you okay? She nodded, smiling. It hurts when I laugh, she said softly. Victor turned to the boy. You're enjoying yourself, aren't you? Tomi straightened. She's the one laughing. Victor sighed. You could be in school. Instead, you sneak into gardens. I tried, Tomi said. Didn't work out. Easier to dance than to sit hungry. The man hesitated. You dance well. Tomi's grin widened. Guess so. But I think she's better. Just gotta remember how. Victor looked at his daughter. Her color was brighter, her eyes alive. Maybe, he murmured. That evening after Tomi left, Victor lingered in the garden. Mara approached him quietly. You see it now, don't you? He nodded slowly. I do. But it scares me how much it depends on him. Sometimes healing comes from where you least expect it, she said. Over the next weeks, Lena began asking for her wheelchair to be taken to the garden every morning. Tomi came faithfully, sometimes with wilted flowers, sometimes with street candies he'd saved. They talked more now that she'd found her voice. You don't get cold? She asked one breezy afternoon. Nah, he said. Cold's just another kind of dance. You move faster. She laughed. You're ridiculous. He grinned. You like ridiculous. I do, she admitted. Victor watched from his office balcony, their laughter drifting upward. He should have been in a meeting. Instead, he was watching two children, one rich, one poor, teaching each other how to be alive. Later that night, he found Mara reading. If he's going to be here, he said quietly, he should have shoes. Mara smiled. I'll take care of it. The next day, Tomi arrived to find a box waiting on the steps. Inside, a pair of clean sneakers. He looked up at Victor, who stood by the door. They yours? Victor nodded. Consider it a loan. Tomi slipped them on, eyes shining. Guess I'll have to dance better now. He did. He leapt higher, spun faster, made Lena laugh harder. Every move carried joy, and every laugh drew her a little closer to the world she'd lost. But joy is fragile, and Victor's world was built on reputation. One morning, a journalist's car stopped outside the mansion gate. By noon, a photo of the barefoot boy dancing before the billionaire's daughter appeared online. The street kid and the heiress. The comments were cruel. Rumors spread. By evening, Victor's business partner called in fury. Have you lost your mind, Victor? Letting some stray play with your daughter like a pet project? It's a scandal. Victor's throat tightened. He hung up and looked at Lena's picture on his desk, the one where she was laughing with Tomi beside her. When Tomi came that afternoon, the gate didn't open. He waited for an hour holding a paper bird he'd made for her. Rain started to fall. Inside, Lena watched through the glass, her eyes wide with panic. Where's Tomi? She cried. Victor walked in slowly. He won't be coming anymore. Her voice cracked. What did you do? I'm protecting you, he said. From what? From pity, from gossip, from them. You're protecting your name, she shouted, tears spilling. Not me. Victor's face twisted, shame creeping beneath his anger. You don't understand, Lena. The world isn't kind. Neither are you, she whispered. She turned her wheelchair away, shoulders shaking. The sound of her sobbing filled the house, raw and real. That night, Victor sat alone in his study. Every tick of the clock sounded like her tears. He picked up the paper bird Tomi had left on the gate. It was soaked and torn, but still holding shape. He realized he'd done it again, built walls where bridges should have been. He closed his eyes. God help me, he whispered. The rain didn't stop for 2 days. When it finally did, the garden looked bruised, petals beaten down, soil washed clean. Victor walked through it at dawn, his shoes sinking slightly in the mud. He stopped near the fence where Tomi used to dance. The silence there hurt. Mara found him still standing there hours later. You can fix this, she said quietly. By doing what? By being human again. He almost laughed, but the sound caught in his throat. Do you know where he lives? Mara nodded. Under the old bridge, by the station. But be careful, sir. It's not your world down there. It's the world I've ignored too long, he said, and walked away. The bridge smelled of rain and smoke. Victor moved carefully through the narrow space, past cardboard beds and rusted barrels. A small fire burned in a tin drum, and around it sat the boy he'd cast out. Tomi, Victor called. The boy turned, startled. You? He looked around as if expecting a trick. What are you doing here? I came to apologize. Tomi laughed without humor. Rich men don't apologize. They send guards. Victor stepped closer. Then let this be a first. The boy studied him, unsure. Victor extended a small bag. Food, and something for you. Tomi opened it. Inside were the sneakers he'd left behind, cleaned, repaired, dry. He looked up, blinking hard. She okay? No, Victor said. She's worse, because of me. Tomi stood slowly. Then why are you here? Because she needs you. And maybe I do too. They stood in silence for a long moment, the city humming around them. Finally, Tomi sighed. You sure you want a bridge rat in your mansion? Victor's eyes softened. I want the boy who made my daughter laugh. Tomi hesitated, then nodded. All right, but only if I can keep the shoes. Victor almost smiled. Deal. When they reached the mansion, Mara met them with tears of relief. She hasn't eaten, she whispered. Lena sat in her chair by the window, head bowed. When Tomi stepped in, she froze. Then her eyes filled, and her hands flew to her mouth. Tomi? He grinned. Miss me? She let out a breath that turned into a sob. You came back. Couldn't stay away. The garden looked bored. Victor stood behind him, quietly watching. Tomi knelt beside her. Hey, I made you something. He pulled out a string of paper birds, all colored with bits of candy wrappers. They fly better together, he said. She laughed through tears. They're beautiful. Not as much as that smile, he teased. Victor turned away, blinking fast. For the first time, he realized that joy didn't demand perfection. It only asked for presence. From that day, Tomi became part of the household. He ate with the staff, practiced dance in the garden, and coaxed Lena into joining him little by little. At first, she only moved her hands, mirroring his gestures. Then her shoulders followed, then her torso, shaky but determined. You're cheating, Tomi said one morning, grinning. That's half a dance already. She laughed. Wait till I stand. You'll have competition. Can't wait, he said, and meant it. Victor started watching their sessions openly now. Sometimes he even clapped. When Lena managed to raise herself a few inches, he clapped until his palms turned red. Mara whispered to him, You see, hope has its own medicine. He nodded. And it's cheaper than any I've paid for. The improvement came slowly, but unmistakably. Weeks passed. The doctors couldn't explain it, but they marveled. Her neural response is strengthening, one said. It's unusual. She's got a good coach, Victor replied, smiling toward Tomi, who was pretending to juggle oranges nearby. But the world outside wasn't silent. The same news outlets that mocked them before began to twist the story again. Is the Hale fortune being squandered on a street boy? Victor ignored the noise. He'd built his life caring about headlines. Now he cared about laughter echoing down his hallways. One evening, Tomi came to him in the library. You ever get scared? He asked. Victor looked up from his papers. All the time. Even with all this? Tomi gestured at the towering shelves, the wealth around them. Especially with all this, Victor said. It makes you forget what matters until you almost lose it. Tomi nodded thoughtfully. Guess that's the same everywhere. People forget things. Victor smiled faintly. You, for instance, forgetting to rest. I'll rest when she dances, Tomi said. Promise. They both looked toward the window, where Lena's reflection glowed faintly against the night. Days later, the moment arrived. It was late afternoon. Sunlight poured through the glass, golden and soft. Tomi was playing a rhythm on a metal tray, coaxing Lena to move with the beat. Come on, he urged. You're almost there. She tried to lift herself. Her arms shook. I can't. Yes, you can. One more push. I said I can't, she cried, frustrated. Tears sprang to her eyes. Tomi dropped the tray. Then don't do it for me. Do it 'cause you want to. She looked up at him, anger giving way to something fiercer, resolve. Slowly, painfully, she gripped the sides of her chair and pressed down. Her body trembled, but she rose, an inch, then two, until she was standing, unsteady but upright. Mara gasped from the terrace. Victor froze mid-step, disbelief flooding him. Lena stood for 3 full seconds before collapsing back into the chair, laughing and crying at once. I did it, she whispered. Tomi knelt, eyes wet. Told you you could dance. Victor crossed the room and knelt beside them both. He took his daughter's hands, trembling. "I'm proud of you." Then he looked at Tomi. "And of you." Tomi smiled shyly. "Guess we're both miracle workers now." That night, the mansion was alive. Music filled the halls. Mara cooked a real dinner, and everyone ate together. The billionaire, the nurse, and the barefoot dancer now wearing bright sneakers. Victor raised a glass of juice. "To laughter," he said. "To dancing," Tomi added. "To both," Lena said, and they clinked glasses. Outside, the city lights shimmered like stars caught on the edge of the sea. A week later, the world found out. Someone from the staff had filmed that moment. Lena standing, Tomi cheering beside her, Victor crying silently in the background. The clip leaked online, first on a local blog, then across the country. Within days, millions had watched it. Homeless boy helps billionaire's daughter walk again. The headline traveled faster than any business deal Victor had ever made. For once, the comments weren't cruel. They were in awe. People talked about compassion, about healing, about how wealth didn't have to divide. Some said they cried watching it. Others said they called their parents afterward. Lena scrolled through the messages on her tablet, eyes wide. "Dad, they're calling Tomi a hero." Tomi flushed. "Nah, just a guy with good rhythm." Victor smiled. "The world disagrees." Soon journalists began camping outside the mansion gates. Cameras waited for glimpses of them. Victor could have called security, but he didn't. He walked out himself one afternoon, holding a small press conference in front of the garden. "My daughter's progress," he said into the microphones, "isn't because of science or money. It's because of kindness." A young man reminded us that joy heals in ways medicine can't measure. He came to us with nothing but laughter and gave us everything. When asked who Tomi was, to him now, Victor didn't hesitate. "Family," he said, "my son, in every way that matters." The clip went viral again, sealing the story as one of redemption and love. But inside the mansion, life stayed humble. Lena practiced her walking every morning. Tomi stood nearby, ready to catch her if she wobbled. "Don't look at the floor," he told her. "Look where you're going." "I am," she said, grinning up at him. "At you." He laughed. "Cheeky." Victor watched from the veranda, heart swelling. There was something sacred about ordinary mornings now. The clatter of plates, the rustle of laughter, the smell of toast. That evening, he sat with Tomi in the garden again. The city hummed in the distance. "Do you ever miss it?" Victor asked. "The streets?" Tomi shrugged. "Sometimes. It was home for a while. But this feels different. Feels like it might last." "It will," Victor said firmly, "as long as you want it to." Tomi looked at him, uncertain. "You mean that?" Victor nodded. "When I lost my wife, I shut out the world. I thought money could fill the emptiness. But you brought life back into this house. Into us." Tomi blinked rapidly, his voice catching. "I didn't mean to. I just wanted to make her laugh." "And you did," Victor said softly. "And in doing so, you made me remember what love sounds like." The boy smiled faintly. "Guess we both needed saving." Victor extended his hand. "Let's call it even." They shook hands under the fading sky, the quiet between them full of understanding. Days turned to weeks, weeks into months. Lena's progress astonished everyone. She could now walk across the garden, slowly but steadily, her hand brushing Tomi's arm for balance. One afternoon, Victor organized a small event. Not a press thing, just friends and hospital staff who had supported them. Chairs lined the garden path. The same garden where Tomi had once danced barefoot, now shimmered with fairy lights. Lena appeared in a soft white dress. Tomi, in his best shirt, extended his hand. "Shall we?" She nodded, her smile radiant. "Play something for me." He whistled a tune, off-key, familiar. The first melody she'd heard from him months ago. Together, they began to move, her steps cautious, his light, guiding, playful. Applause rose from the guests, but Lena didn't notice. Her eyes were fixed on Tomi, and his on her. When they finished, she leaned against him, breathless, glowing. "Told you I'd dance again?" He laughed. "And you said you couldn't." "I lied." Victor clapped the loudest. Tears streaked his cheeks freely this time, and he didn't care who saw. Mara stood beside him, whispering, "You've done good, sir." "No," he said, watching the two in the center of the lights. They did. That night, after everyone had gone, Victor stood by the window in his study. The moon hung low, silver against the glass. Tomi approached quietly. "Sir?" Tomi hesitated. "I've been thinking maybe I should, start school again, properly, learn some things." Victor turned, surprised. "That's a fine idea. Whatever you need, we'll make it happen." Tomi scratched the back of his neck. "You really think I can do that?" Victor smiled. "You made my daughter walk again, Tomi. You can do anything." The boy's eyes shone. "Thanks, Mr. Dad." Victor froze for a second, then nodded slowly. "Say that again." "Dad," Tomi repeated softly. Victor reached out and pulled him into a hug. Neither spoke. They didn't need to. The house, once filled with silence, now breathed like a living heart. Months later, a new foundation opened downtown, the Dance of Hope Center for Children. It provided music, therapy, and shelter for street kids like Tomi once was. The ribbon-cutting ceremony drew a crowd, but the loudest applause came from the children themselves. Lena stood beside Tomi, holding his hand. "Look what you started," she whispered. He shook his head. "Look what we built." Victor stepped forward to give a short speech, but his voice wavered halfway through. This began with a boy who refused to stop dancing, and it taught me something I'll never forget, that the smallest act of kindness can heal the biggest wound. The audience rose to their feet. Cameras flashed, but for once Victor didn't feel watched. He felt seen. Later that evening, as the center's lights glowed across the city, the three of them, Victor, Lena, and Tomi, walked down the quiet street together. Lena stumbled once, but Tomi caught her hand. "I've got you," he said. "I know," she whispered. Victor smiled, walking behind them, feeling something he hadn't felt in years: peace. He looked up at the stars. For the first time since his wife's death, he whispered, "Thank you." Maybe she heard him. Maybe it didn't matter. The laughter echoing from his daughter and his son was enough. As they turned the corner, Lena laughed again, light, alive, free. Tomi spun her playfully, and she didn't fall, she danced. And for Victor Hale, that was wealth enough to last a lifetime. If this story touched you, kindly subscribe, leave a comment on what touched you the most, and click on the notification button to get notified for more amazing videos. Thank you as you do so, and remember, love in its simplest form can bring about a greater healing that money can't buy. Spread love.